Friday afternoon to 4 o'clock time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Matthew Berry, NBC Sports crew, on why Jerry Jeudy could find more success with the Browns.
I think if you're making the case for Jeudy, one, he's 24 years old and he was the 15th pick in the draft. All the physical attributes are still there.
It is crazy to think he's 24.
He's 24 years old. Now he turns 25 in like 3 weeks, but still, he's 24 right now.
It feels like he's been around forever,
yes,
is the point.
And here have been his starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Drew Lock, Jeff Driscoll, Brett Rippon, Philip Lindsay, in the COVID game against the Saints.
Wide receiver Philip Lindsay,
Teddy Bridgewater.
No, it wasn't. It was Kendall
Hilton.
Yeah, Kendall Hilton, but they lined up with Lindsay so much in the Wildcat that he like statistically counts as the starting quarterback.
But yeah,
a skill player as a quarterback.
Yeah.
And then Russell Wilson, who never threw over the middle and seemed to have more of a connection with Cortland Sutton. I also think Brown's amazing offensive line. There's going to be more time for Jeudy's routes to develop. I think probably just a better offensive ecosystem in general. And then two, the Browns, whatever you think about them signing Deshaun Watson, they have been a very smart organization, very analytically driven.
Sure.
They make the right decisions typically in terms of unearthing players. So they
have
see
the coach
something
of the year.
in Jeudy. They have the two-time coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski.
Where were you?
People forget that.
Thanks. Yeah, people do forget it. People forget it often.
Yes, some people even at this circular table forget it. So I don't know. I wouldn't give up on Jeudy just because he's 24 years old.
With that, let's welcome in G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan, the ultimate Cleveland sports show. G. Bush, when you hear the quarterbacks that Jerry Jeudy has played with, kind of leads you to believe there might be more there.
Listen, I love that because when I've heard all this stuff in the ecosystem about what Jerry Jeudy is or what he's not, from Mark Schlereth to a lot of the other guys that are really down on Jerry Jeudy, who are in the media in Denver, I never hear them bring this up. I never hear this list of quarterbacks who, he's been such a disaster. Well, listen, Sean Payton hasn't done much of anything, and he's been there a couple years, and he was supposed to be the guru. Russell Wilson did not work out. Most of his passes Russell Wilson was throwing was quick throws to the outside, bubble screens to get Jerry Jeudy to football. And as they did point out, when you look at the numbers and you look at PFF, they were horrible when throwing the ball over the middle and getting the ball downfield to Jerry Jeudy. And you look at the name of the quarterbacks that were listed. I mean, really? Like we're talking about. We had a Jeff Driscoll sighting, or Drew Lock is the guy that he was the all pro that was getting them the football. So I just think a lot of times when you have a bad team, and we've been here before because we've had no quarterbacks in the past, and we know what we've been up against going 1-31 a couple years ago. When you have a bad team. And you're in the media, you just pick a couple people out and you could just make them the scapegoat, right? we go back a little bit. We take a look at all the guys that we had here that didn't pan out, and we could pick and choose from, Kellen Winslow to Braylon Edwards to Dwayne Bowe. We got the greatest hits going here, working of who didn't really work out. We drafted Trent Richardson. We can go on and on and on. So you can pick a guy and say, this is the reason it didn't work, or you could pick somebody and say this is, he didn't work out and this is why, and he was a bust and that there, so on and so forth. But if we're going to go on that analysis and we're going to say that Kevin Stefanski is a two-time coach of the year, and you're in the offense that look what it did with a backup quarterback in Joe Flacco, and you're getting your offensive line healthy, you got a great running back in Nick Chubb, and you got a really strong, solid number one pick who knows how to play the game the right way, and Amari Cooper is going to show him how to run routes, and you got this type of organization built up. You can take on some of these pieces. You can take on some guys who may have not been able to do it at a high level at other places and get them back here. And by the way, we kind of rehabilitated David Njoku. He was once disgruntled, once a guy that wanted out here, demanded a trade. They gave him a contract, and look what he's turned into. So, I think he's going to flourish with the Browns, and I think he has a new lease on life. He's going to play with a new sense of urgency when he gets his contract.
And a lot of people have made a lot of the extension that they signed Jerry Jeudy to. So let's take a look at the numbers. This is from NFL Stats. We've heard the quarterbacks that were thrown in the football. 2020, 52 catches, 856 yards, 3 touchdowns. 2021, 38 catches, 470 yards, no touchdowns. 2022, he did have over 1,000 yards, 67 catches, 1,012 yards, 6 touchdowns. Last year, 54 catches, 758 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Again, wasn't playing with elite quarterback play by any stretch of the imagination. You heard the names. But it's not like the guy was a complete bust. People in Denver, and again, he needs to play better. If he's going to be a number 2 receiver on a championship caliber team, he needs to play better. I'm not debating that. But he's had 1,000 yards before. He's had 11 touchdowns. Relative to where he was drafted, maybe he's been a disappointment. But he's got a new shot. And I don't know about you, I didn't think there was anything wrong with the contract. They're not paying him like a number 1. If he performs the way, if he earns the high end of that with the incentives, they'll be thrilled to pay him the $57 million.
Hey, we'll listen. We'll clap it up. We'll shake his hand. We'll jump up and down. I think we need to really signify what is a bust and what is a guy who's underperforming, right? You took him 15. That's middle of the first round, right? He has given you a season where he has had 1,000 yards, right? If you want to look at a bust, John Ross is a bust.
Right.
They take him for the first round for the Bengals, and he never plays. The kid, I think his name is Devin White, who got drafted a couple years ago by the Bears, ran a 4.2, 4.3 or whatever, never got on the field. Those guys are. Corey Coleman is a bust. Corey Coleman is a guy who never did anything. Those are the guys that never got any production, never came close to sniffing 1,000 yards, and couldn't get on the field. And when they got on the field, didn't do anything. Is Jerry Jeudy underperforming? Sure. But at the end of the day, if you look at him and you say, if he gives you next year, you look up and he says he's around 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns, money well spent.
Yeah.
Because, 1,100 and 5, 6, 7 touchdowns is the going rate for a number 2 receiver. It's not a long term, and it's not like they gave him 6 years or something. And you got to take in consideration, and this is the thing that always got me. If you are going to say that Deshaun Watson and quarterbacks of that ilk, of quarterbacks that are top 5 franchise guys, make everybody around them better, then you expect him to be better. You expect him, because Deshaun will be better, that he will get those 1,000. Mari Cooper should be better. David Njoku should be. Everybody should be better. So why not give Deshaun Watson an opportunity to make those guys better? Don't say Deshaun is a make or break year, but then get mad when you go get a receiver and upgrade your receiving core and say it's too much money. I don't get that.
Well, here's a look at the most expensive offenses for 2024. This is from Warren Sharp. No surprise, Browns are the most expensive, which is fine. $188.8 million. It's not your money. It's not my money. It's Jimmy Haslam's money. We'll spend it for him. Rams are next. Cowboys, Chiefs are 4th, and Broncos are 5th. Bottom line is they need to produce better. When you're putting out that kind of money for offense, you expect better production than you got a season ago.
Hey, listen, I think you'll get that. And by the way, those top 4 teams on offense, those are all playoff teams.
Yep.
So
yes, they are.
There aren't a bunch of bottom feeders up there that are just wasting money. Those teams make the playoffs, and the Browns made the playoffs. And think about it. It's a testament to how much money they do spend. Because guess what? They had a bunch of people out and a lot of guys making a lot of money that were out. And the Browns continuously put guys on the field. And it's a testament to their depth. And they still got to the playoffs. So, yeah, they want to be better. And it just goes to show you that Jimmy Haslam will spend the money. You guys got to think about it. When they're restructuring those deals for all these guys, and they're restructuring this over here, restructuring that over there, guess what that is? That's Jimmy Haslam getting that call from Andrew Berry saying that, okay, we got another check that we got to cut. Because they're going to be giving those guys new deals, new bonus money, new guaranteed money up front, right? And kicking the can down the road. So for me, I don't have no problem with it. Keep spending their money, bro. I want to listen. If you want to, I love. I call it Operation Stockpile. They've gone. They brought in a variable as a consultant. They went and got Deontay Foreman. I love that move. They got the defensive tackle, another guy from the Jets. So keep bringing these guys in. Keep going, because this is the year, make or break. Extend your window, so to speak. So I'm all for it.
All right, before we go to break, AFC North, best moves and free agency questions for each team. For the Browns, best addition. Cleveland has been trying to acquire Jeudy from the Broncos for more than a year. At worst, Jeudy should slot into the starting lineup and give Watson a deep threat downfield. That would be solid value for what Cleveland had to surrender to get him. That would be 5th and 6th round picks in the 2024 draft. Underrated move, Browns reinforced the defensive front, headlined by signing Jordan Hicks. The Ohio native posted more than 100 tackles 5 straight years. Should solidify Cleveland's run defense following the departures of Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki. Biggest remaining question, when will Watson be cleared from last year's season-ending shoulder surgery, and what will it look like after he is? We've already talked about Jeudy. Jordan Hicks is an interesting one. Quinton Jefferson is another guy that I think fits into what they want to do. But I think the linebacking core has been upgraded. You still have JOK back. Jordan Hicks, Anthony Walker has been banged up the last couple of years. And this is not to take a shot at him. Jordan Hicks is an upgrade.
Yeah, look, you upgrade. It's a sneaky upgrade, too. You talk about him, all he does is tackle people. He's a tackling machine. You even got a guy like Devin Bush, who is a guy that, if you take a look at some of the other guys that they have, you get a guy who had first-round talent, that has a skill set that can run sideline to sideline, potentially play special teams. And if you can get some of the stuff that you got from Taki, you'll love it, right? And obviously you got JOK still coming back, and JOK to me, he really showed up. I think he's on the precipice of becoming a household name and a superstar, especially the way he played at the end of the year. He was dominant against the Texans. You take a look at his stats and the way he was able to thrive in that system. I think that the year 2 in Jim Schwartz system, they brought back predominantly everybody in the secondary, including Rodney McLeod. They brought back all of the defensive linemen predominantly, except for Jordan Elliott. I think they try to give Siaki Ika opportunity to get some time to make this roster, and they pretty much brought back everybody on the offense and added that receiver, running back. They've done a really nice job. They've done a nice job of solidifying their holes. And just thinking about it like this, the Cleveland Browns, if it started right today, the Cleveland Browns definitely have an opportunity. They could put a 53-man roster on the field right now, today. Yeah. And a lot of people still have a lot of holes to fill, and not mentioning now they can go best available in the second round, which I like.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit more about Deontay Foreman, the new running back. Also dive a little bit into the draft and who the Browns might be looking at. Sports4CLE. We'll be right back talking Browns with G. Bush.
Here comes the rush.
All right, everybody. Let's take 5. With one of these 5 Lady Luck scratch-offs from the Ohio Lottery.
Like the $10 Lady Luck 50X. It's got prizes all the way up to $500 grand, so you could really clean up.
The Lady Luck family of scratch-offs is the Ohio Lottery's first ever, with 5 price points from $1 to $20. They're an easy way to cook up some fun.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, as well as the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. So the Browns made it official. They signed Deontay Foreman. They tweet that out. And then this is also interesting. I've alluded to this a couple of times. Deontay Foreman has shown that he can handle a big workload. This from Jeremy Fowler. He's produced 80 or more yards in every game that he has gotten at least 16 carries since 2022. That's 8 games total. He's been kind of ushered in. But that just goes to show you that's a guy that he's averages 4.2 yards a carry, and he's not going to have a lot of negative runs. If you're telling me 16 carries get you 80 yards, that gets you in second and short an awful lot in the Browns offense.
Yep. And I think they missed that last year. Jerome Ford is more of a, I would say, an outside type guy that can give you a little more long ball opportunity in terms of yards, and taking it to the house. But one of the things that we missed was tough yards in between the tackles. It turns out that Kareem Hunt looked like he probably played the entire season hurt. And he wasn't able to give that type of I guess consistent run, especially in terms of his carries. He did a really good job of having, I think, 11 touchdowns or something crazy like that on the goal line. And then Pierre Strong didn't really quite get an opportunity to show what he can do. He was more of a special teams guy and a third down back. But when you get Deontay Foreman, you get a guy that's going to be able to play on goal line. That's the guy because short yardage. That's the inside zone guy. And I love it because I was still looking around. Hines, to me, is more of a returner, third down type back. I wanted a more of a bruiser, more of a guy that was going to be a traditional get a ball, give me 3-4 yards, and keep these chains moving. So I thought it was another great job of bringing in a guy that I could see mixing in with Nick Chubb in the event that Nick Chubb gets healthy and back ready to go. And I'm much more confident in the running back room as of today with him as one of the backs that's in the mix rather than just having Hines and Jerome Ford and then Nick Chubb being a question mark. So I think they solidified themselves. And I think what they've done in a couple of ways is say, hey, Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson, if you ain't going to be ready, that's okay. We're not going to rush you back. And you don't have to be ready to the second day of camp. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for to get everybody back in their own time frame. So I think the quarterback room and the running back room is stocked full of professionals that could take some throws and play these preseason games while everybody gets whole.
All right, this from the Bleacher Report. One word to describe each team's 2024 offseason after early free agency. For the Browns, they go with smart. You see Ravens high risk, Bengals unresolved, Browns smart, Steelers calculated. Nothing too risky for the Browns or wild for a good team that knows free agency doesn't solve many problems. Jerry Jeudy, low risk, high reward potential. Jameis Winston is there in case Deshaun Watson goes down again. I think it's a perfect. I agree, and I don't often agree with the Bleacher Report, but I agree with
Right.
Smart as well. Everything they did made sense to me.
They backed up. They backed up upon their backups. They said, okay, good, we get Jameis. We learned from our situation last year. Guess what? Give me Tyler Huntley too. We'll take him and bring him in also. Let's look. We just talked about Deontay Foreman. We definitely got Jerome Ford, but let me go ahead and bring in another a competent running back that's going to be able to. So you got 4 or 5 guys that's going to be able to take these touches. You bring in a guy like Jerry Jeudy. He has an alma mater, same with Amari Cooper. He's going to probably be one of the guys they partner and buddy him up with. You got guys now you can slide down Elijah Moore to the 3. And you could still go out and get best available. If you want to get another receiver, you still can do that. It's not much of a thing. They've done a good job of bringing back guys. They brought back guys. They could have went for the splash plays on the outside, but they say, no, let me bring Maurice Hurst back. Let me bring Harris back. Let me bring Zadarius Smith back, right? Let's we got solid veterans there, and we just hope that Alex Wright maybe takes that next step and he can get there. Obo or Akaranko, hopefully he has that pec injury is healed and he's ready to go with that. Brought the whole secondary back. And they had guys that played, young guys like Ronnie Hickman that played well last year. No Greg Newsome trade, right? Bring back Greg for another year. So your thought process is that you continue to get better. You're better in the secondary. You're back in the second year under Jim Schwartz. You bring some of the Reeses of the world in, the Dorseys of the world, and you collaborate on a new explosive playbook where you're throwing the ball down the field a little bit more, getting comfortable in what we want to do with Deshaun Watson, and you hope that he stays healthy. And you get some offensive line help, or offensive line is healthy, and you suddenly you look at a team that has continuity, that knows what they want to run. Guys are familiar with the program, and you just hope that solidifies an offense catch up with the defense, and you got a solid team.
All right, so we do know another one of the Browns' 30 visits that they're going to bring in relative to the NFL draft coming up. Western Kentucky wide receiver Malachi Corley will be one of the players meeting with the Browns in April. Could be a consideration in the second round. He's 5'11", 215 pounds, 22 years old. NFL comparison is Deebo Samuel. 2021, 73 catches, 84 yards, 7 touchdowns. 2022, 101 receptions, 1,282 yards, 11 touchdowns. Last year, 79 catches, 958 yards, 11 touchdowns, 683 yards after the catch, 5th most in the nation. 353 of those yards after catch were against zone, 225 yards after catch man. G. Bush, when I saw this was one of the guys that they were bringing in a couple days ago, the thought that came to my mind is he's a guy, they don't have a receiver like him. So it makes sense. You're always trying to find, well, you got Cooper who's outside and runs good routes. You got Jeudy, who's kind of a slot guy who runs good routes, and yard after the catch is one of his good things. He's a bigger, physical guy that you get the ball to underneath, and almost like a hybrid tight end. He'll run over people.
Yeah, listen, I love the move. Love it. Listen, he's one of the guys who, you go take a look at it, and he's one of a part of why this receiving class is one of the deepest classes that in memorable seasons. This is one of those classes where you got a little bit of everything. He's the type of guy that fits that Deebo Samuel role where you could throw the ball, make a couple guys miss, be physical, make corners have to actually tackle, right? You know what I'm saying? So he's a guy that can do some of that. We wanted that. We thought we were going to get a little bit of that with Elijah Moore. We found out he really wasn't that type of player. He wasn't a guy that you're going to run and run plays in the backfield and put him in motion and give him the ball. That wasn't his forte. So, I'm always looking forward to getting more receivers and getting more playmakers for Deshaun Watson. I'm a guy that I like to take all the excuses out of the room, right? I want to take all the excuses off the table. You know what I'm saying? When I'm evaluating Deshaun Watson or what we're going to do as an offense, I want to have all my pieces, all my parts. I want to make sure that I got different players for different seasons, for different reasons. And those type of guys really make your team dynamic. So, you get a guy like that, a guy like Zay Flowers, look at what he did his rookie year. Now, more and more, these receivers are coming in giving you big-time numbers. They're coming in giving you stuff right now. Downs is another kid from the Colts who played really well during his rookie season. So, these guys don't come in and just, play special teams. You can get a guy that comes in and contributes and if he can add that physicality, and especially with his size and being able to be physical downfield, that's just another feather in the cap of the Cleveland Browns offense.
All right, before I let you go, who in the draft, within reason, would you consider it to be a home run that the Browns can get in the second or third round?
If they get Xavier Legette, I've been screaming his name for a long time. I mean, he is a monster. I don't understand how, he must have been a late bloomer, but this guy, when you go get time, if you guys listening out there, go check him out at South Carolina. I like what he brings to the table. Physical, can go up and contest the football. He's going to run into 4.4s. He just reminds me. We talked about another guy that reminds you of Deebo Samuel. Just so happened to go to the same school as Deebo. And this guy, if you can get him, I don't know how he would fall to you in the second round, but that's the way things happen. When you get a run on a player, and you might get a run on quarterbacks, right? You may get a run on receivers where, some of these guys will slip to the late second round, and then all of a sudden people start moving up to go get them because they didn't think they were available. So I think this guy is going to be one of the dudes who, if they can get him and you throw him in the mix with what you already have, hey, it's going to be a problem. I would love to get him if we taking a look at him in the second round.
G. Bush, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Appreciate you. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. G. Bush, make sure you check him out. 92.3 The Fans, The Barbershop, 8 till noon on Saturdays. You can also catch him Monday through Fridays on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're going to take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Lance Reisland joins us. Film breakdown, video analysis of Quinton Jefferson, Devin Bush, Tyler Huntley, and Dante Foreman, the Browns' newest free agents. Straight ahead on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Time to take video analysis, film breakdown of some of the free agents that the Browns have signed. Quinton Jefferson, Devin Bush, Tyler Huntley, and Dante Foreman. Whenever we do that, we welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. Lance, some interesting additions to the Browns in this batch of free agency.
Well, I'll tell you what, Barry does a great job, in my opinion. First of all, Quinton Jefferson is a great scheme fit. We'll talk about him here in a second, but he is a great scheme fit in terms of, he's got 26.5 sacks, and then these guys, they get that, it's low risk, right? That Bush is a great talent, 10th pick in the draft. He runs really well. He had an ACL tear, so we'll see if he comes back from that, but he's low risk. Huntley matches the skill set of very much of Watson. He doesn't quite have the vertical threat with the arm. But he can run. He might be a red zone guy. So just everybody they signed, for me, it allows them to take the best players in the draft. And when you're taking the best available players, that's how you build your roster and get really, really good. So they've set themselves up very well for the draft, maybe trade back and get a couple more picks. But if they pick at 54, they've filled all their holes. Now they can find really good football players.
All right, so the first guy we'll take a look at, defensive tackle, Quinton Jefferson, 6'4", 291 pounds. He is 30 years old. You mentioned really good scheme fit. Take us through this first clip, what you see.
Well, what he does is he's got 192 tackles, 26.5 sacks. He's a scheme fit, right? So he's not great against double teams. He's not awesome against the run. But what he is, he's a guy who fits this penetrating Jim Schwartz, get upfield, gap penetrating, be in the backfield type concept. So what you get here is you're going to get, so the first one right here, you get a bull rush. So he uses his hands very well. He's very violent in space. This is the first one where he plays down the line of scrimmage very well against the run. He's good against single blocks. You're going to see him here. They run a naked. He reads. He's very smart. He understands blocking schemes. He uses leverage very well. He's a great you're talking about a guy who is has a great idea of what the offense is trying to do, and he can run really well. He's a disruptor. He can play multiple positions. I have snaps of him at nose, defensive end. He can stand up if they need him to. He's 6'4", 291. Again, one of these defensive line rotation guys that Jim Schwartz loves that can do multiple things, rush the passer, penetrate gaps, and just get after it. And great pickup for the Browns here. This guy is a really good football player. You
mentioned 62 starts, so he's an experienced guy, 30 years old, 26.5 sacks, 28 TFLs. It's a guy that you're comfortable. You're not going to ask him to play a ton of snaps, so the snaps that he plays will have more impact.
Yeah, and you can move them down to the 3 technique. You can move them out to the 5. You can do some different things with them, and it gives them that flexibility inside. So it gives them another guy like Zadarius Smith, where a lot of times last year they would have Miles next to Zadarius and Obo in there as well. Now you're talking about another guy who can play defensive tackle with that size, but he can also they can twist and stunt with him from the inside or the outside. He can just do a lot of things that are a little bit unique to Jim Schwartz and his scheme. But what makes the Browns so really, really difficult to block is the flexibility of these guys being able to do different things. And Jefferson's a guy who can do all those things.
So Devin Bush is the kind of guy that Andrew Berry seems to like. First-round pick, 10th overall, played really well, and then tore his ACL in 2020 and hasn't been quite as good since. What have you seen when you look at him?
One thing I like about him is, although he has 323 tackles and 191 of those are solos, this is a guy when he's healthy has 18 tackles for a loss, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, a couple interceptions. He can cover very well in both zone and man. What you like about Devin Bush, if he's healthy, he is a find the ball and go get it guy. He is a guy who can run sideline to sideline. So the first clip here, you're going to see him run down the line of scrimmage, make the play in the backfield. Next, you're going to see him on a pin and pull kind of scheme from the Browns, and he gets around. Now, what I like about him is he's smart. He understands the crossing route here, and he breaks it on Tom Brady. Again, flat down the line of scrimmage. You're going to see this guy. He plays right over top of the center. He's a Mike. He's a guy with, Jordan Hicks. Now they have some flexibility again. Guys who can play multiple positions. I think Bush is an outstanding Mike, and I think Hicks can be an even better sandbacker playing to the tight end or to the run strength. But again, this guy, when healthy, is a tackling machine. Another guy who fits this emotional, penetrating, mayhem, play in the backfield kind of thing. And you're going to see the Steelers, when he was with the Steelers played very, like right here, when they get upfield. And on this play, the center's actually supposed to block him, but he couldn't get there because he was thrown off by the penetration. So he's a guy who's going to thrive behind the defensive line, creating all of that penetration. He's a guy who plays better without people in his face. He's very physical. He can run. Again, he's a guy coming off ACL, but he's young. First round pick. I love the breakdown. It broke him down coming out of Michigan. This is a guy, he's healthy. This is a steal. This is a really good football player.
Just 25 years old, you mentioned that. Was third in the Rookie of the Year voting in 2019 before he tore his ACL. There's also a guy that we've heard Jim Schwartz wanted, which leads me to believe Jim Schwartz knows how he's going to use him.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and you talk about that style, right? So he can cover multiple positions. He can cover the tight end. He can cover backs out of the backfield. That's one thing he can do. He can play on that third down zone coverage where they like to drop and then rally and make tackles. He can blitz for multiple positions. He's very physical. He seems to have a great understanding. I say it all the time, but, in a Jim Schwartz defense, the guys know what they're doing. And when you know what you're doing, you can play extremely fast. If the brain is thinking, the feet aren't moving. The same things I say all the time are very true. And that's how these players get better. They have the same rules. They have the same responsibilities. And that's why they play so fast. This is a guy, if he knows what he's doing and he's healthy, he can really play. You don't have 300 tackles and be one of the studs on a Steelers defense unless you're really good. So, again, a guy who's very talented.
Third guy we're going to look at, quarterback Tyler Huntley. Created some conspiracy theories when they signed him because you got Winston, you got DTR, you obviously have Watson, and now you have Tyler Huntley. This guy can play. We've seen him enough play for the Ravens when Lamar has been hurt. He's a pretty good quarterback.
So my first breakdown of this guy, so I started breaking this guy down, and I think he fits the skill set even better than Jameis Winston. Now, the one thing he does not do extremely well, he doesn't have great arm talent, but he does understand defense very well. So first thing you're going to get here is his ability to read. This is what he does very good. He understands coverage, and he finds the open guy. Next you're going to see is that he's very good with his feet. So this is a quarterback draw, so you can do the plus run game. That was a draw on fourth down. Next thing he does is he extends plays very well, very much like Watson. Then he's going to get a first down here. And if you're talking about a guy who's a backup or a guy coming in, the one thing he needs to do a little bit better is protect the football. He's got 4 turnovers last year. But besides that, he's a guy who's a gamer. When I think of Huntley, I think of a guy who's got 1,900 career yards passing. He's got great feet. His intermediate throws are the best. He processes information. He'll stand in the pocket. He's real tough. He seems like a great team guy. He's very easy, right? He's very non-needy. As a coach, I always like guys who are very non-needy. They come every day. You know where they're going to be. They don't say much. They're not very controversial. This what seems like Huntley is. He's a guy who just seems like he's a football player first. Everything else comes second. And we've seen it against the Browns. He's a gamer. So he can make those throws when necessary. I don't think he's a guy you can win because of, but I do think he's a guy you can win with. And another guy that gives you great flexibility with Watson. You don't have to do much different with this guy in the game. He just can't stretch it vertically as well. But really good quarterback and tough, and I really like his film.
Now, the other thing I would say, they signed him for the veteran minimum. So don't be too surprised if Andrew Berry flips one of those 3 backup quarterbacks for a draft pick a la Josh Dobbs a season ago. So that's just something to keep an eye on as you get closer to the regular season and quarterbacks become, they're a currency because everybody needs a quarterback, it seems like, in the NFL. Last guy we're going to take a look at, guy that signed just yesterday, about a couple days ago now, Dante Foreman, running back. What do you see with Foreman and what do you like about him?
Well, what I like about him is his toughness. So he kind of is going to fit. I feel he's going to fit that Kareem Hunt mold, right? He's tough. He's a really good red zone runner. He's not fast, but he's quick. And first thing you're going to see here is this is a trap. He's going to cut it all the way back with a really good jump cut. He gets vertical. He doesn't have outstanding speed, but he's quick. This is what I really like about him. He's a straight ahead runner in the goal line, and Browns like to run the ball straight ahead on the goal line. He hasn't caught the ball a ton, but I really like he's a natural pass catcher. He doesn't fight the football, so he does a lot of things well. He's got over 500 carries, which is not, he hasn't been worn on the ground. This is what you get out of him. This last cut is really what you get out of him. This is a trap, and he just explodes. So going back to it here, you get a good jump cut. Really like his ability to understand what the defenses are doing. Down in the red zone here, he's going to take his zone play, and he's going to get vertical, which you need to do. Love him out of the backfield. I thought he'd be good on their screens. He's 235 pounds, so he'll be good in pass protection. And then lastly, this is what you get here. This is going to be a sucker trap in the defensive tackle. Not a lot of wasted movement. He's getting vertical. He's not a breakaway threat, but he is quick, and he will get you those, 5 to 7 yards. He's a guy who I think fits perfect in what the Browns do on first and second down. Even though I think he could be a 3-down back, I don't think he has to be. I think he's a guy that can get you 5 yards and make it 2nd and 5, which makes you really hard to stop. Last year, I thought Ford did a great job, but he had too many plays that were for nothing, and then he hits the home run. So I think what they got to do is they got to figure out a way to get Ford involved with that speed and that explosive ability. But Foreman gives them a guy who can run downhill and get them to 2nd and 5, which is so important in the NFL.
Yeah, averages 4.2 yards a carry. The other thing that I saw, there was a stat, and he's played with the Texans, Titans, Panthers, and Bears. In games in the NFL where he has gotten at least 16 carries, he has always got at least 80 yards. And that kind of goes to your thing. Not a lot of negative yardage, and he ends up with a 4.2 yard per carry during his NFL career.
Well, yeah, when you look back to when the Browns lost, when the Browns lost when they lost Nick Chubb, right, they had trouble maintaining, and Ford would hit those home runs. But what a lot of people don't understand about Nick Chubb is that he gets you to 2nd and short so much. Rarely does Nick Chubb get tackled for a loss, and that's kind of what Foreman is. He's not a home run threat like Nick Chubb is, and he's not the elite level of breaking tackles and things like that. But he's a heavy guy. Like you said, he's 6 foot, he's 235 pounds. He doesn't have a lot of negative plays. And when you talk about 16 to 18 carries or 14 to 16 carries, and you're getting 80 yards, you're talking 4 yards a carry. That gets you to 2nd and 6. And at 2nd and 6 with the Browns, with their weapons, with what they've added, with Deshaun Watson being where they think he's going to be, and I think he's going to be there. I thought he was getting there. And if he's healthy, I think the Browns are doing the right things and getting pieces that help this offense be consistent and stay on the field. They can hit home runs, but they can also grind it out. And Foreman's a guy that at the end of games can help this team grind it out if they need to go into 4-minute offense and run that clock. I think it's a great pickup. He's a seasoned guy, 6 seasons, played in multiple schemes, so he's going to understand blocking schemes for gap and zone and everything in between. So really good pickup, veteran, gives another guy in the backfield with Nick Chubb coming back off injury that they can rely on, especially on 1st and 2nd down.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good film analysis, video breakdown relative to the Browns, as well as the rest of the NFL with cleveland.com and the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program is dedicated to recognizing exceptional students, teachers, and schools throughout Ohio. Scan the QR code on screen to nominate students and teachers as Academic All-Stars and Teachers of the Month. They must be currently enrolled or teach in grades K through 12. Is your K through 12 school developing students' literacy skills to achieve success in reading? If so, you can nominate your school for the School of the Year. Students can win $100, teachers can win $500, and schools can win $2,500. Scan the QR code, fill out the forms, and nominate deserving students, teachers, and schools today. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program takes pride in honoring exceptional students, teachers, and schools across Ohio. Submit your nomination today. It's fun, fast, and free. We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's welcome in Brad Board from the Orange and Brown Report, as well as the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Brad, you wrote an article, one that you always do, things you think you know about the Browns. Start with the first one. Defense back and better than ever.
Yeah, most critical signing for me this offseason had to be Zadarius Smith. He is kind of the straw that makes it all work stirs the drink that makes it all work for this defense, in my opinion. His ability to move in and out, Dave, and set the edge opposite of Myles Garrett, obviously was very successful, getting Myles his first Defensive Player of the Year and best defense in the league and all that stuff. So bringing him back and his versatility I thought was critical. So they bring him back. They bring back Maurice. They bring back Shelby. And the one place that I kind of highlighted is like you can upgrade on that defensive front was at Jordan Elliott. And they did that. So they bring in Quinton Jefferson. I think that's an immediate upgrade over Elliott. So you bring back the key guys and get better at the one spot that I thought they could. So I thought that was kind of an ideal free agency for their defensive front.
Yeah, I like what they did at linebacker as well. I'm with you. I think the defense, and it's year 2, so I think the defense will be better.
Yeah.
Nyheim Hines' role, that's another one. Take us through what you think that might be and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I just thought it was a really important signing because you're trying to fill the potential Nick Chubb void, right? But with Hines, he's a good signing because whether Chubb is there or not, he plays the same role, or at least a critical role in your offense. So you're trying to create an offense that gets yards easier and quicker and move the ball down the field that way. He brings a speed element. He's a weapon. He can take some handoffs. He can take some carries in the when Chubb's not around, but he also fills a huge special teams role. And even when Chubb is back, he will still serve as a third down running back option. So I like the signing because it's not like a guy that when Chubb returns, he just falls down the depth chart and you don't hear from him again. He's going to have a role regardless. So a kind of value signing there with Hines, and I think he brings something the Browns haven't had at running back.
The third thing, and the final one we'll talk about with this, things that you think the article you wrote for the Orange and Brown Report. No half measures with the offensive changes, starting with the staff.
Yeah, mostly with the staff. So, we saw the breadcrumbs last year. We talked about the change in the offense, but they never got there for a multitude of reasons, right? They kind of had to regress back into what they knew better. All the different quarterbacks, there's a number of reasons why, right? Deshaun didn't look ready early on, things like that. But you have to give credit to Kevin Stefanski this offseason. He has made some unpopular decisions, some difficult decisions of people that he's been friends with along that staff to change it and turn it over, get younger, fresh faces, innovative minds, and attack this. Even had Nick Charlton, the most recent ad from UConn, a guy that, not a great offense at Connecticut, but a guy that has a really innovative mind with window dressing and motion and, orbit motions and using shifts and stuff like that we want them to use. They bring him in. And the innovation always comes from the college game up. So you got him and Tommy Reese, and they've just taken no half measures. They turned over basically the entire offensive staff with Staley and Dickerson and Dorsey. So you have to give him credit for making that tough decision to go all the way in to changing this offense this year.
Do you think the quarterbacks they brought in behind Deshaun Watson indicate that as well? In Winston, Huntley, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Is that another indication? And what do you think the offense looks like? We talked about the changes. What do you think those changes will be?
More spread stuff, RPO. I think you'll see a lot of, different alignments. Hopefully a huge uptick in motion and shifts, which I think is critical. But I think you'll see a lot of RPO stuff too. The quarterback thing is strange, right? The Huntley addition is strange. And I've asked a lot of people have different opinions on this, but I kind of, in asking around, have kind of figured that, hey, it's an extra arm. They have a little bit of trauma from last year's going through 5 quarterbacks, Dave. Why not have another good one on the roster? They signed him to the vet minimum. But some people think it means something for DTR's future. So I don't necessarily believe that. I still think they value DTR. I think at the end of the day, maybe kind of what Barry had in the back of his mind is, hey, if Deshaun is limited in the reps he can take through OTAs in the offseason, here's another guy that can be a leader and can learn our system and can throw when Deshaun can't. And then maybe he looks really good in the preseason and we can flip him for a 6th-round pick or something like that, right? Like, I feel like he thinks along those kind of lines. But I disagree about the DTR thing to what I've heard from some people. I do think they value DTR more than Huntley, and that the odd man out, as long as DTR is healthy, would be Huntley at the end of the day.
Yeah, unless somebody comes and offers you a 5th-round pick for DTR, that could be, again. I think he views the backup quarterbacks as an asset, and we'll see how he chooses to allocate those assets. Might be based on who offers what. I know you answered this in burning questions of the day from the Orange and Brown report. Do you think the Browns overpaid for Jerry Jeudy with contract extension they gave him?
I don't think. I think on the surface it looks like it, right? But when you kind of dig into this a little bit more, you feel a little bit better about it. So the first contract I would point to would be Calvin Ridley, who was on the free agent market, similar production for most of his career, nothing crazy. I think he went over 1,000 yards by 16 yards this year. He got $23 million per year. According to, Brad Spielberger, PFF, he says that this contract is going to look around $17 million probably when all said and done. The $13 million, it gets kind of tricky, the $13 million on his 5th-year option was folded into this deal to make what really is $28 million guaranteed look like 41 when you get agent speak, right? So it's not quite as crazy as you think. I liked the idea of him playing on a contract year a little bit, Dave, like a prove-it year. I think there is something to that. Like, you always see guys' best production in a contract year. So that I didn't kind of like, but I see where and why Andrew Berry would want to do this. You don't see good wide receivers make the free agency. You just don't see it very often. And when you have a guy that you want, and if you feel like you can get ahead of the market, then you do it. And that's what Andrew Berry is virtually doing here. Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, all going to sign mega deals. The top of the market is going to go above $30 million. If you have a wide receiver 2 that can get you 900 yards signed at, or even 1,000 yards or more, if you get him at $17 million a year, that's going to look like a steal for the next 3 years.
Yeah. Keep in mind when Andrew Berry traded for, this is kind of why I'm okay with it. When he traded for Amari Cooper, everybody was like, $20 million a year that's a terrible contract, until you looked at what happened in free agency when they went up. And the other thing is if you let him play and he has a big year, he does what you think he can do, all of a sudden it's another probably $5, $6, $8 million a year that you're going to have, and you want to lock him up. He's 24. You don't want it to be a 2-year deal. He's through 2027 right now. I think it extends. Yeah. So it's 24, 25, 26, 27. If he does if you were right with your judgment of him as a player, you got a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, absolutely right. And there's an out, there's an out after the 26th season, probably in the contract with only $28 million on it after this year. So it's kind of directly tied to Deshaun Watson, right? It's like kind of saying, like, we like what he does. We like what he brings. We think he's going to be good in this offense. Let's tie him to Deshaun's contract and let's see how this works out. So I agree with you. If he goes crazy this year and has or even just has a 1,000-yard season, and a lot of people are like, oh, he's never had a 1,000-yard season. Well, he had 972 and 6 touchdowns, Dave. Let's not be crazy here. It's basically a 1,000-yard season 2 years ago. So I do think he has produced more than people are giving him credit for.
Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Now, I'm going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we'll talk best moves, worst moves for the Browns, according to clutch points. Also, which AFC North teams have improved the most? Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
All right, everybody. Let's take 5. With one of these 5 Lady Luck scratch-offs from the Ohio Lottery.
Like the $5 25X. It's a nice way to nab up to 150 grand.
The Lady Luck family of scratch-offs is the Ohio Lottery's first ever, with 5 price points from $1 to $20. They're an easy way to break into some fun.
We continue talking Browns with Brad Ward from the Orange and Brown Report and the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. So, Brad, again, I know this is from your burning Browns questions of the day, Orange and Brown Report. Which AFC North team do you think improved the most in free agency, and which team do you think slipped the most?
So at this point, not counting the Browns, because I think the Browns have had a really good free agency so far. So I think they're at the top of the list. I think at this point, you have to look at what the Steelers have done at quarterback. So compared to what they had before in Pickett and Rudolph, to get Wilson and Fields on the cheap, I think that alone makes their offseason look pretty good, right? And I will say this, though. I don't think it's going to work with Russell Wilson in that locker room. I find it hard to believe that his kind of rub you the wrong way, corny positivity act that he kind of carries himself with is going to fly in the Steelers locker room, where you do have Justin Fields as kind of an alpha leader of men. I think that the team will gravitate towards him more. So that'll be an interesting dynamic to keep an eye on for sure in the Steelers locker room. But on paper, that makes them look like they've improved a great deal at the quarterback position. We'll see how it works out actually in real life. I think the Bengals have done a nice job filling some holes. I think the Ravens are probably the worst so far. A lot of people like the Derrick Henry move. It certainly looks scary on paper. We'll see how it plays out, but they have lost some pieces on that defense and still need to address that wide receiver core.
Yeah, I will say the signing on the offensive line I think will help Joe Burrow quite a bit in Cincinnati, and that had to be point 1, 2, and 3. Let's try to keep the quarterback healthy. And I think that'll help. All right, this from Clutch Points. Best moves and worst moves by the Browns in free agency so far. Best move, they say signing Jameis Winston, grade B+. Ideally, the Browns don't have to rely on Winston, but it can't hurt to have an insurance policy to start the season rather than scramble for one in the middle of the year. Worst move, extending Jerry Jeudy, grade C. Cleveland re-upped him to a 3-year, $58 million deal that includes $41 million for a player who is yet to career 1,000-yard season, 4 tries in the NFL. That is a hefty price tag. We've talked about that quite a bit, and I disagree. Salary cap's going up. Price of quarterbacks is going up. Price of wide receivers is going up. Price of edge rushers is going up. So get those under wraps. Everything else is kind of in flux, but those are high-priced ones. The Winston one, I was critical last year when they didn't have a veteran backup, and I don't like saying I was right, but I was right.
You were right.
And they went and got they made sure they had veteran backups this year.
They certainly did. They have a number of them now. So, but Winston, like what he brings, like the energy he brings to the Browns. So he'll be fun, and, it makes for an interesting room. I believe that he is probably one of the best backups in the league for sure. So a good move there, no doubt about that.
What I'm curious to see, and I hope we don't see it, but think about the guys that Kevin Stefanski has got really good years out of as quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Joe Flacco. I'd be curious to see how he coached Jameis Winston.
If you could take Deshaun out of the mix and just give him a year with Winston, wouldn't that be really intriguing? Like how well he's done with Brissett, how well he's done with every quarterback that he's really gotten his hands on. I think that he could do crazy good things with Winston, Dave. I really do. I would be super intriguing to watch that. So I think your point is excellent there.
Yeah, but I don't want to see that. If we see the backup quarterback, we saw enough of that. All right. This from CBS Sports. Chris Trapasso, 3-round mock draft. He has the Browns taking Trey Benson, running back from Florida State, at 54 in the second round. Then in the third round, coming back and taking Dominic Pooney, offensive lineman from Kansas. So what are your thoughts about Benson? And Benson in the second round, Pooney in the third.
Listen, Trey Benson is a terrific back. I mean, he really is the whole package. I find it hard to believe the Browns will take a running back at 54, Dave. But Dominic Pooney is an excellent offensive lineman, and if they could get him with their third-round pick, I would sign up for that now. So I do like that one a lot. I like Trey Benson. He's a great player. I just think that they'll probably, like people ask now, they've kind of checked every kind of, checked off all the boxes on this roster, Dave, so they can really take best player available, but they should take best player available in a position of higher value. So, probably not a running back there.
Yeah, and when you look at it, if like a wide receiver, they haven't had the ability to develop wide receiver. They haven't had any success developing wide receivers. We'll just be honest about that. Who are some guys that we hear that they're going to meet with Corley? Corley might be a guy that takes a little bit of time to develop, just because of in nothing against Western Kentucky, but he's not facing SEC and Big Ten competition week in, week out. If Corley's there, is that a guy you could see them?
Yes, like him a ton. Big fan. Like what he brings athletically, physically. If he is there, I think that they should try to take him. And certainly you're going to take a look at the other options, but I am a big fan of Corley. So I think that he is certainly intriguing. I think that one thing we need to keep an eye on when we talk about 54 and even their third round pick, Dave, is offensive line and tackle. So going to next year, we're going to see some changeover on that offensive line, right? And they need to start preparing for that now. So by doing such a good job in free agency and kind of where you're at, I see the only need on the roster is maybe a third tight end. I don't really count Ricci as a pass catching guy. So I think you still kind of need to fill that Harrison Bryant role and add some depth there. So that's the only position I can see them trying to fill in free agency maybe. But they've kind of hit everything else on the roster if you add McLeod in there. So they can take anybody they want here and kind of look to the future. I think tackle would be a prudent move.
Well, as you look at some guy that you'd consider a home run if he's there in the second round, who are some names you would consider to be, home runs for Andrew Berry? And like you said, these are guys that he's going to find somebody that he thinks can play in the league 4 or 5 years. That's kind of what you're looking at in the second round.
Yeah, I think that I think Corley would be home run. Honestly, I had him written down before. I've talked about him a lot. Kingsley Suamashia from BYU, I think, is a tremendous tackle prospect. Now, listen, this is a great draft for tackle. So who they like at tackle, I think, whoever that is at 54, but that's a name I kind of have checks all the boxes for me. And then if you're looking at, like, we talked about Trey Benson or later in the draft, Dave, even a guy that I like, maybe, they talk about how thin this draft is, right? Because of the NIL and guys can go back and make their money in college and the age range. I think I'm pretty intrigued by, not in the second or third round, but late in the draft, Ray Davis from Kentucky as a running back prospect. I think that he is very interesting as kind of a sleeper guy. So just a name to keep an eye on, that if they get late in the draft and they do want to take a running back, he's a name I would like.
Brad Ward, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Brad.
Dave, you're the best, man. Thank you for having me.
Brad Ward, make sure you check him out. Orange and Brown Report. He is also the host of the All Eyes on Cleveland podcast. Always really good Brown stuff. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you Monday at 4 on Sports for CLE.